Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is December 9th, and right now we are looking at the Doppler radar, Langley radar here on the Washington coast. You can see some pretty intense precipitation moving onshore this morning. It's going to be spreading up across the area. We've got winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up for the mountainous areas here, and we're going to bring some nice rainfall amounts in with this atmospheric river as well, kind of increasing some of the landslide concerns here across the area. We'll dive into those details as we go through the video, and as always, we'll take a look at the extended forecast. This is jump back towards the infrared satellite imagery, and you can see our atmospheric river moving into the area as we speak. Fairly strong storm system here. I know you have some widespread impacts here across the Cascades and heavy rain for some areas across the lowlands, some landslide potential as I've been mentioning in the last few days. And you can kind of see why this atmospheric river gets its nickname, from the Pineapple Express, or why sometimes it's called the Pineapple Express with these atmospheric rivers. You can see that moisture stranding all the way back towards the Hawaiian Islands there. Now, this is day one excessive rainfall outlook, Washington, Oregon coast, and by day two, it's going to be sliding down through Oregon there. We'll take a look at some of those precipitation amounts as we go through the video here this morning. Take a look at the last 7 days. You can see why the Stillaguamish got so high, kind of bullseyed there across the north central Cascades, and of course, heavy rainfall elsewhere over the last 7 days as well. So that's why it's crested towards those record levels there for some areas up there. We got some cool drone footage and whatnot. Now, taking a look at Seattle-Tacoma National Weather Service, we have those winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings. We got hydraulic outlooks, we got flood watch, we got wind advisories out there. You name it, we got it out there. So, yeah, a pretty dynamic storm system rolling in here. And we're going to look at some of these graphics here, starting with Portland National Weather Service. There is a slight chance for some moderate or major flooding here, but for the most part, it should be minor impacts here. But there is that saturated soil we got to work with here. And so we could be dealing with some landslides, as I mentioned here as well. So you got to keep your mind on that if you're living near some of the steeper hillsides or some of the bluffs out there as well, which we have a lot of here across BC, Western Washington, Western Oregon. And there is some fog out there this morning. Some of it could be freezing here. Use your blow beams and slow down. This is the weekend snow here, National Weather Service Spokane, and you can see that the time frame here kind of targets tonight as we go on into early tomorrow morning. Should be wrapping up on the day Sunday because freezing levels are going to rise. We're going to turn it to rain for some areas as well as we go on into tomorrow, but it's going to be a net gain across the mountains, and it's going to be pretty rough conditions as we go through tonight into tomorrow morning out there. So a heads up for that. And this is Idaho, Panhandle, Montana. You can see snowballs right around 3,000 feet or so could be impacting some of the roadways out there, including Highway 2, as you can see. Nice graphic there from the National Weather Service, Missoula, Montana. Here's Whidbey Island. Check out some of these gusty winds up towards 50 miles per hour as you're going through the day today, probably picking up here late morning and going on into the afternoon. Seattle Metro, just blustery conditions as we go through tonight. Nothing too exceptional or crazy so far this time of year. This is Hoquiam. Check it out, up over 40 miles per hour as we go through the afternoon as well. Actually, late morning here as well. Actually, starting pretty quickly here with some of this precip. Looks like maybe a gust up towards 40 miles per hour also. So here's a wider look at things here. You can see the Hawaiian Islands here. And again, with that nickname Pineapple Express, you can see that moisture extend all the way back down across the Pacific Ocean. And then you can see this precip moving in as we go through Sunday, kind of hanging out across Oregon. And then we try to bring another system in here Thursday. There is some model disagreement on it. I mean, the European, this latest run, actually makes it look like a bit of a weak atmospheric river there, but we'll watch that here. Some previous runs in the GFS have it much more of a progressive system as we go on in through next week. And now here's composite reflectivity. This is kind of the timing of things now. Here we would be about now, and you can remember the Doppler radar I showed you here this morning and that precipitation moving inland. And this is the threat here for a little bit of snow, maybe down across Kitsap Peninsula or Vancouver Island. You saw the heavy precipitation there. If I scroll back and forth there, as we go through close to the noontime hour, you might start to see some of that snow mix in here with some heavy precipitation. Might drive down that snow level a bit here for a brief time. You can see that wraps up though as we get on into the afternoon hours. And then we're going to even start to warm things up across the mountains as we go on in through later tonight into tomorrow morning, as you can see there, as the atmospheric river continues its trek southbound across Oregon. Some residual showers on in through Sunday night across the Cascades of Washington and BC. Now, taking a look at 850 millibar temperatures, this is 5,000 feet. You can see we've got the colder air around right now, but look at our atmospheric river. You can see it plowing into the region here and really start to rise these freezing levels here as we go on in through tonight, and really brings even areas about 5,000 feet above freezing there, at least for a time, as the atmospheric river continues to move down across Oregon. And then we cool down a bit here in the wake of that as we go through Monday morning, but the precipitation should be cutting off by then. Taking a look at the European total precipitation in inches. And like I've been talking about the last few days, unless you've been living underneath a rock here, you know how much rain we've gotten across the region. And we're going to add to it here, showing Seattle somewhere near an inch, but there is some rain shadowing going on here. And the further south you go across Tacoma and Olympia, you'll get slightly higher amounts. You can see Portland probably up over an inch here as well. And some of the Cascades, 2-3 inches. Oregon, Washington coastline, Vancouver Island coastal areas as well. And again, the typical rain shadowing east of the mountains. Now, taking a look at Astoria, look at the Europeans' latest here with about 2.2, 2.3 in a 24-hour period. Seattle, Tacoma, right around an inch, 0.9 here on the latest control run. This is Painfield, Everett. A little bit more rain shadowing up there, showing about 0.7 of an inch of rain in a 24-hour period as we go on in through the day Sunday. Now, this is Olympia. Notice you get a little bit more rain the further south you go. No rain shadowing effects there from the Olympic Mountains, 1.2 inches. So the ensembles with higher amounts there also. And this is Snoqualmie Pass. The elevation is correct on this one, and you can see that we do warm up here as we start to go through the early morning hours of Sunday. So it's going to turn over to rain at some point, most likely here as we go on through the day Sunday. And kind of a nice cross section here. The top would be about 10,000 feet. That's the surface Snoqualmie, and this would be 5,000 feet above sea level right there. Now, taking a look at Astoria, and you can see on the European, the deterministic runs also about 2.5 inches here in a 24-hour period. So there's some big amounts coming for some of the Washington and Oregon coastal ranges here, and we could have some landslide potential with that. Seattle, Tacoma, about 1 inch there in a 24-hour period. Now, taking a look at some of the winds, because as we go through here, just in the next few hours, it gets pretty darn windy here up across maybe western Whidbey Island, the San Juans here, maybe towards the coastline. Looks like Bellingham up towards 40, but also down towards Olympia and Tacoma, it's showing a bit breezy here as we go through the afternoon. Not too bad for Seattle, maybe just some blustery conditions out there, but some gusts up towards 50 could be had across the Washington, Oregon coast, and as always, across the higher terrain. This is the high resolution rapid refresh, showing something similar here as well. It could be a pretty good shot of wind here for the San Juans, and even Olympia again showing up here at 43. Seattle not nearly as windy as what's going on northwest or down towards Olympia there, or the Oregon and Washington coast. Taking a look at total snow Kuchera ratio in inches. This is the NAM 3KM. You can see it rolling in, and you see a little bit of that show up here around the noon hour, maybe 1, 2, as some of that heavier precip comes in. It's also showing a little bit trying to mix in. So you might see some snowflakes on the higher hills when the stronger precipitation makes its way into some of western Washington here, and even across southwest Washington in the higher terrain. But you can see that snow piling up across a lot of the Cascades, and then it just kind of cuts off there by the time we get into Sunday as the freezing levels rise. And watch out for eastern Washington, especially north of I-90, could be picking up a couple inches here as well. Now, looking at day one overall winter storm impacts, just kind of reiterating that we are going to have some impactful snow as we go through tonight across the Cascades, and some impacts can be had across the Idaho Panhandle, western Montana, the higher terrain of northeast Oregon also. So here's looking at the UW model here. We're looking at 2-meter temperatures. So you can kind of see as we go through this morning, it doesn't look like it's cold enough to snow, but look at as we go towards the noon hour, it does bring that temperature down, especially across the Kitsap Peninsula there and maybe some of Vancouver. And it does drop some of the temperatures here when we get this heavier precipitation across the area. So again, some of the higher hills and some of the foothills out there, we'll see some snow with that. And yeah, but it should be short-lived. Only last a few hours. Should not be highly impactful, and it's not like you're going to get frozen snow on the streets or anything like that. Very marginal event at best. This is looking at total snow depth in inches. This is the European. So as I scroll through here, you can see the addition of snow we're going to get as we go through Saturday night. Then you get a little bit of melting here as we go on in through Sunday, but it's not the big dynamic flooding event that we had the last round, although some places could still be looking at some localized flooding. And I'll scroll through this again here really quick and kind of see the snow build up and then melt back a little bit as we go through Sunday. And this is a closer look at that exact same map. You scroll through here. I'm just going to keep pulsing through, and you can kind of see that build up and then the knockdown here as we go through Sunday a little bit here. But yeah, not too big of a deal. Definitely a net benefit here for the mountains. So this black line marks where you got to start watching for landslides. And this has Seattle, Everett, Seattle, Tacoma, and Tacoma Narrows here. And the black line means that if you get intense precipitation, you're really at risk for landslides. And right now we're there. So we're going to get some pretty heavy rainfall as we go through the day today. So you got to keep that in the back of your mind. It's not much you can do to avoid it here. You can just kind of, remember that. And you guys, a lot of people know If you're around some of these steep bluffs, you probably dealt with landslides previously also. So we are in that category here, though, across western Washington. And this is something interesting as well. We'll look across Pacific Ocean to Japan here. There's Alaska, there's the Hawaiian Islands, there's Washington and California, there's British Columbia here. So this is the GFS. Some of the models, actually all the models are showing this now. But we'll scroll off into the extent, and you're going to see the jet stream not very consolidated across the Pacific Ocean, even though we have been getting some decent storms here. You can see the ridges and the troughs, and more troughs out here and a little bit of ridging out there. And we scroll off into the future, and you can kind of see the troughing moving across the Gulf of Alaska here in the December 14th time frame. But you notice the jet stream start to emerge over the western Pacific here, and watch what happens. As we scroll off into the future here, we're looking at December 22nd, but you can see this jet stream very consolidated, and all the models are showing this. The Canadian, the European, the GFS are all showing a very powerful jet stream starting to extend across Pacific. This is very El Nino-ish here, and it might be actually enhanced by the Madden-Julian oscillation. If you want, you can check out my El Nino video on the California Weather Watch page to get more information on that. But this is definitely a sign for some stormy weather here somewhere across the west coast. It could be even impacting the Pacific Northwest, or it could be more targeted for California, and we're looking way off into the future. But the model agreement is really good here, and this tends to line up with our expectations of El Nino and an active Madden-Julian oscillation moving across the Pacific Ocean. So very interesting there. The European, the GFS, and the Canadian kind of all showing that developing. Now, taking a look where we were a few weeks ago, I believe this was October 10th. I'm going to scroll across this, and you can see the big drought improvement we've got a lot across the Pacific Northwest. There's just some moderate drought and some extreme across Idaho Panhandle, Northwest Montana, a little bit across Oregon, but we're rapidly improving it, and this goes out to December 5th, so this is going to improve again on the next round here that comes up in a few days. So definitely good news there. We're taking away this extreme drought here across Pacific Northwest quite rapidly, even though we still are technically below average precipitation across a lot of the area for the year. But anyway, we are improving. They are taking notice of our huge rainfall amounts. So one more look at our atmospheric river there as it goes on in through the area today. But anyway, yeah, we'll do this again tomorrow. Hope you guys are having a good day, and I'll talk to you guys then.